I knew I shouldn't have opened that final channel. Even as my finger hovered over the mouse, something inside me screamed not to click, but I did. And the second the screen changed, I realized I made the worst mistake of my life. At first it was just text, ordinary white lines spilling into the chat box like any other Discord server, but the words were wrong. They weren't messages typed by someone else, they were mine. Word for word, thought for thought. Lines I hadn't spoken aloud, things I'd only thought, now echoing back at me on the screen in real time. I told myself it had to be a trick, some elaborate prank, a script, a glitch. But then the messages started predicting what I was going to do next. He's leaning closer. He doesn't know the camera is already on. I froze, my webcam light was off, or at least it should have been. The tiny plastic dot glared at me, red and unblinking. And then the voices started. Not through my headphones, not even through my speakers, through the room itself. Layered whispers, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, overlapping and repeating my own words back at me, bending them, twisting them into something cruel. I tried to close the window, but every click just opened more. Tabs multiplying like a spreading infection, each one showing a reflection of my face on that same empty Discord server, each one a little darker, a little more distorted than the last. My screen flickered. The newest tab showed me typing something I hadn't typed. I finally found the truth. And then the chat exploded. Usernames I didn't recognize filling the feed, chanting, spamming, walls of text that looked like code, or maybe something older, something not meant to be read. That's when I realized I wasn't alone anymore. Something was in the room with me. I didn't see it at first, but I felt it. A shift in the air, a presence at my back. I wanted to turn, but my body wouldn't move. My reflection in the screen was already turning, though, smiling. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you this. I don't know if I'll even get the chance to finish. But what I uncovered in that abandoned Discord server wasn't just disturbing. It was something I was never supposed to see. Something none of us are supposed to see. And if you think I'm exaggerating, if you think this is just some ghost story for the internet, you're wrong. But to understand how I ended up here, we have to go back. Most nights my life was painfully ordinary. I was one of those people who thrived on routine, not because I loved it, but because I didn't know what else to do with myself. Work, eat, shower, game, repeat. It was a cycle that blurred into weeks, then months. I'd sit in front of my glowing monitor long past midnight, headphones on, Discord open, bouncing between the same handful of servers. If you've ever lived online, you know the kind of nights I'm talking about. Someone posts a dumb meme, another friend makes a joke that's only funny at 2 a.m., and suddenly you're laughing harder than you should. That was my comfort. A bunch of usernames and avatars that felt closer to me than most people I saw in real life. Lockdown only made it worse, or maybe better depending on how you look at it. The real world shrank down to 4 walls, while my entire social life existed inside glowing boxes of text and pings. My friends and I had our rituals, late night Among Us games, inside jokes about anime, arguments about which energy drink was peak. Safe, normal, even boring. That night started like any other. We were in voice chat, arguing about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. I remember laughing so hard I spilled soda on my desk. The biggest threat to my existence at that moment was the possibility of shorting out my keyboard. That's how far removed I was from anything resembling danger. And then casually, someone mentioned a link. I don't even remember who first dropped it. The message was buried in the scroll, no bold announcement, no explanation, just an invite link to a Discord server with no context. At first, nobody paid it much attention. People share links all the time. New servers, new memes, new nonsense. But there was something different about this one. The username that posted it wasn't one I recognized. It didn't belong to anyone in our friend group. And when I tried to scroll back to see who it was, the message was gone, deleted, like it had never been there at all. For a second, I thought I'd imagined it, but when I hovered over the chat, I could swear I still saw the faint outline of that gray invite box, almost like a glitch, just enough for me to know it hadn't been a dream. I almost ignored it. I should have ignored it. There's always that instinct in the back of your head, the one that whispers, don't click random links from strangers. And believe me, I'd learned that lesson the hard way before. Spam bots, scam servers, malware, you name it, I'd seen it. But this wasn't like the others. It didn't try to bait me with free nitro or exclusive content. It didn't even have a description. It was just blank, empty, and yet somehow it felt like it was waiting for me specifically. The thought should have creeped me out more than it did. Instead, I felt this gnawing curiosity, like a splinter in my brain I couldn't get out. My friends were still joking in voice chat, none of them aware of what I was staring at. I thought about mentioning it, asking if anyone else had seen the link, but something stopped me. Call it paranoia or maybe shame. I didn't want to be the guy who freaked out over nothing. So I stayed quiet. And the longer I stared at that faint invite outline, the more it seemed to pulse, like a heartbeat. Click or don't click, curiosity or caution. You already know which one I chose. The second my mouse clicked, the screen shifted. The familiar colors of my home server dissolved into something darker, emptier. The name at the top of the screen read, "No server found." That should have been my first warning. But I was already inside. The first thing that struck me was the silence. If you've spent any time on Discord, you know it's never quiet. There's always something, pings from active chats, scrolling text, bots announcing people joining or leaving. Even dead servers have that faint hum of digital clutter. But this place, it felt different. The server's icon was a plain gray circle. No custom image, no banner, nothing. Just gray like the color of an empty profile. The server name at the top was simply a single dot, minimal but somehow suffocating. There were only a handful of channels, 4 to be exact. General, Media, Hash Logs, Truth. That was it. No emojis, no fun custom categories, no bot commands, none of the usual chaos. Just those 4 channels sitting there waiting. Curiosity tugged at me, so I clicked General first. The chat history was still there, but it looked wrong. The messages were years old, frozen in place. Like I'd stumbled into a digital time capsule. The oldest was from 2016, the newest from 2019. After that, nothing. The usernames unsettled me even more. Most weren't names at all, just strings of numbers like 61492 or 110378. At first I thought they were random, but then it clicked. Those looked like dates. Birthdays maybe, but some looked like they could have been death dates. The messages themselves started off normal enough. Small talk, memes, late-night rambling. But the further I scrolled, the stranger they became. Random strings of numbers, broken sentences, phrases repeated over and over. One user, 81901, posted the same message 3 times in a row. Don't forget what we agreed. No one ever replied. I typed a message just to see what would happen. Hello, anyone here? The text appeared, but no notification, no reaction. Just the words sitting there looking too bright against the faded history. I waited, half expecting someone or something to reply. Nothing. So I tried again. Is this server still active? This time a reply appeared. At least I think it did. The username was blank, just a gray void, and the message itself was distorted like corrupted code. HELLO. The letters flickered before stabilizing. My stomach dropped. I told myself it had to be a glitch. Some leftover bot still spitting out junk text, but the timing was too perfect. And worse, the hello looked eerily like my own message mirrored back at me. I should have left then. I should have closed the tab and never looked back, but curiosity got the better of me. I clicked into media. Most of the posts were broken links, old YouTube videos deleted years ago, corrupted image files with empty gray boxes. But a few were still intact. One was a photo of an empty room, bare walls, no furniture, just a single chair facing a webcam on a desk. Another was a screenshot of someone's desktop, filled with folders all named the same thing: Open Me. The timestamps didn't make sense either. One video clip was dated 12/31/2099. Another was marked 10111970. I recognized that last one. If you know computers, you know 1970 is the Unix epoch, the default time when the system doesn't know the real date. But why would it show up here? The further I scrolled, the heavier the air in my room felt, like the server was breathing, waiting for me to keep digging. Finally, I clicked on logs. It was worse. The messages weren't conversations anymore, they were transcripts. Lines of text formatted like chat logs, but they didn't sound like casual talk. They read like records, people's names, locations, and fragments of dialogue. Some were tagged with disconnected or removed. Others ended mid-sentence. One log in particular made my skin crawl. User 72295, he's here again, watching. User 101488, don't acknowledge it, it notices. User 72295, disconnected. And that was it, nothing else. I stared at the screen, pulse hammering in my ears. That's when I noticed the fourth channel. Truth. Unlike the others, this one had a lock symbol next to it, private, inaccessible. And yet, as I hovered my mouse over it, I could swear the faintest text appeared below the channel name. Just for a second, like a glitch. He's already inside. My hand froze on the mouse. I told myself I was imagining it, that my eyes were tired, but deep down I knew the truth. This server wasn't abandoned at all. And I wasn't alone. I couldn't stop staring at truth. The little padlock mocked me, glowing faintly against the dark background. Every rational part of my brain told me to leave it alone. Locked channels exist everywhere, private spaces for admins, hidden chats for mods. But this one felt different. It wasn't just a locked channel. It felt like it was locked from me specifically. And the more I told myself to ignore it, the more obsessed I became with getting inside. I started testing commands. Most old servers I'd seen had bots still lingering, useless but functional. So I typed a few random phrases in general. Me help. System unknown command. Fine, I tried again. Me list. System logs available, access restricted. My chest tightened. There was still a bot here, something old, buried, and still awake. I tried another. Me. System permission denied. Request authorization. That was when I noticed the faint green text at the top of the server. Bot 9 is online. The thing had been there the whole time, silent, watching. I felt stupid talking to a bot, but I kept going anyway. Me. Bot 9 provide key. I froze. Key, what key? I typed random strings of numbers, usernames, even my own Discord ID. All rejected. But then I remembered something. The weird date-like usernames scattered across the logs. Out of desperation, I tried one. Me, 61492. Bot 9 partial access granted. Proceed with caution. The padlock on truth flickered. Not gone, not open, but unstable. I clicked. The channel opened. At first it was just more text, but it felt different from the other rooms. The formatting was jagged, uneven, like someone had ripped the chat logs apart and stitched them back together. Half messages, broken code, fragments of dialogue that didn't belong to any human conversation. Entry 44. Do not reveal the rules. Entry 45. He is already aware. Entry 46. Stop typing, stop typing, stop TYP. The feed cut off mid-line. I scrolled further. More fragments. Some messages were written in symbols I didn't recognize, glyphs that looked ancient but somehow digital at the same time. Others were simple phrases repeated endlessly. Don't look at him. He knows your name. We agreed, we agreed, we agreed. I wanted to look away. I wanted to leave. But my mouse hand had a mind of its own, dragging me deeper into the archives. Then I saw it, an image file. Unlike the broken links in media, this one loaded instantly. No delay, no buffering. The thumbnail preview popped up sharp and crisp, almost too sharp, like the pixels themselves were cutting into my eyes. I clicked before I could stop myself. For a split second, I thought it was just a photo of a room. A plain room, bare walls, single desk. But something about it was wrong. The angle was too familiar, the lighting too precise. And then it hit me. It wasn't a room, it was my room. Same desk, same chair, same faint stain on the carpet near the corner. But there was someone sitting in the chair. I slammed the window shut before I could process the details. I don't know if it was my face or something wearing it, and honestly, I don't want to know. My heart was pounding so loud, I barely noticed the new messages pouring into truth. Not from the bot, not from the old logs, from a new user. User 120523 has joined the server. I froze. The username glowed bright against the darkness. Unlike the old strings of numbers, this one looked fresh, new. The date was today's date. And then a message. 120523, you shouldn't be here. The username pulsed at the bottom of the screen. 120523. I stared at it, trying to convince myself it was random, a glitch, a coincidence. But the longer I looked, the less convincing that felt. It was today's date. Someone had just joined in real time at the exact moment I unlocked the forbidden channel. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before finally typing. Me, who are you? The reply didn't come right away. Instead, I watched the three little typing dots appear, vanish, appear again. Whoever it was, they were hesitating, or maybe stalling. Finally, a message appeared. 120523. I'm the only one left. My pulse quickened. The only one left. Left from what? Me, what does that mean? This place is abandoned, isn't it? Another long pause. Then 120523. Not abandoned, empty. There's a difference. I frowned at the screen. The difference didn't feel comforting. Me, okay, so what is this server? Why is it even still here? The dots appeared again. Then another message. 120523. It was never supposed to stay online. The others were supposed to delete it, but they didn't, and now it's waiting. My stomach turned, waiting. Me, waiting for what? The reply came faster this time, almost like they'd been expecting the question. 120523, for you. I pushed back in my chair, suddenly aware of the dark corners of my room. I reminded myself this was just text on a screen, just some stranger messing with me. But that didn't explain how they knew I was here, or why their name matched the date exactly. Me, look, if this is some kind of joke. 120523. It is. You clicked the invite, that's all it takes. A cold shiver ran down my arms. Me, so what now? This time the dots lingered for a long while. I imagined someone on the other side, watching me type, watching me sit here sweating in my chair, deciding how much to tell me. Finally, the message appeared. 120523. You need to leave. Don't look at the archives. Don't click the voice channel. If you listen to me, maybe it won't notice you. The voice channel. I hadn't even scrolled that far yet. But the moment they mentioned it, I noticed it at the bottom of the list. Live, glowing faintly, as if someone was already inside. I swallowed. Me, what do you mean it? What happens if I don't listen? 120523. You don't want to know. Their message popped up almost instantly, like they were desperate to shut me down before I asked more. Me, if I don't want to know, then why are you here? Why tell me anything at all? For a moment there was nothing. No dots, no reply. I thought maybe they'd left, disconnected, abandoned me here. Then the typing dots flickered once more, agonizingly slow this time, like every word cost them something. 120523, because I was you once, and no one warned me. The words hit harder than I expected. I leaned closer to the screen, heart thundering. Was this some elaborate role play? Or was there really someone out there who had clicked the same cursed invite, fallen into the same trap? Me, what happened to you? 120523. I stayed, I read too much, I listened, and now I can't leave. The chat froze there for a moment, like the server itself was holding its breath. I didn't type anything, couldn't. My eyes darted to the list of channels again, the archives I had barely touched, the voice channel still glowing faintly. Everything inside me screamed to log out, delete Discord, smash the computer if I had to, but another part of me, quieter, sharper, was already whispering. What are they hiding from you? What's in those archives? What's waiting in the voice channel? I bit my lip, trying to shove the thought down. Me, so you're saying if I leave right now, I'll be safe? 120523. Safe isn't the right word, but safer than if you stay. Me and you, why don't you leave? No reply, just the dots again, stuttering in and out like a dying signal. Then finally. 120523, because I don't exist anywhere else anymore. The message hung there like a noose. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Every instinct screamed to listen, to shut the laptop and walk away. But curiosity has a way of twisting the knife. The more they told me not to look, the more I had to know. And so, against the stranger's warning, my mouse drifted toward the archives. I told myself I was only going to peek. Just a quick glance at the archives, enough to satisfy my curiosity before bailing. That was the lie I used to steady my shaking hand as I clicked the channel. At first it looked harmless, mundane, even. Old messages stacked like forgotten dust bunnies in a digital attic. People posting memes from years ago, dumb inside jokes, late-night debates about which game was overrated. For a moment, I almost laughed. This is what I was so scared of. Just a bunch of teenagers arguing about whether Skyrim was better modded or vanilla. But as I scrolled, the tone shifted, slowly, subtly, like a stain spreading through fabric. The username stopped looking familiar. No more silly nicknames or anime icons. Instead, there were strings of numbers, sometimes arranged like dates, sometimes like coordinates. And the posts, they weren't jokes anymore. They were instructions. One read. 10-21-18. Remember the timing, midnight, no lights, face north. Another, buried a few lines lower. 03-09-19. Don't forget to bring something personal. It won't work otherwise. I scrolled faster, heartbeat drumming in my ears. Some of the logs looked like transcripts, conversations that weren't casual chat, but more like planning. User 71420. So who's leading this time? User 110220. Not me. I can't risk being seen again. User 71420. Then it settled, same place, 3 a.m. I frowned, seen again, seen by who? The more I scrolled, the less it felt like I was reading Discord messages at all. These weren't friends hanging out in a digital clubhouse. They were collaborators, conspirators. One post was a block of text so long it almost crashed my client. A rambling confession, time-stamped years ago. I thought it would feel wrong, but it didn't. Watching them go still, it was like turning off a screen, silent, final. And when I checked later, there was no news, no police. It was like they were never there, like the server swallowed them whole. I jerked my hands back from the keyboard, staring at the screen in disbelief. Was it a story, a prank, some kind of edgy roleplay. I wanted to believe that, I really did. But the timestamps matched real dates, and some of those dates rang bells in the back of my mind, local headlines I'd half remembered, people disappearing, no leads, no explanations. I kept scrolling. Against my better judgment, I couldn't stop. The deeper I went, the stranger the language became. Words replaced with symbols. Phrases like the mirror hour and the exchange, repeated across months of posts. Some channels were nothing but coordinates, lists of them stretching back years. And then there were the images. Most were broken links, thumbnails that had rotted away with time, but a few still loaded. Blurry photos of empty rooms, a chair facing the corner, a dark figure standing just out of frame. One video, only 3 seconds long, was nothing but static, until the last frame where something that looked like a face flickered into view. Not a normal face. Too pale. Too stretched. Its mouth wide open like it was screaming, though no sound came through. I slammed the player shut. My reflection in the screen looked pale enough to be its twin. I should have stopped then, closed Discord, unplugged my PC, but the logs had their hooks in me now, pulling me deeper, whispering questions I couldn't shake. Because what scared me most wasn't the horror, it was the organization, the precision. These weren't random lunatics ranting on the internet. This looked coordinated, like a network, and if this was just one server, how many others were out there? I scrolled further, until I hit a post that froze me in my seat. User 120523. He's coming, the one who can't resist, don't let him leave. My breath caught. That was today's date. My date. The same username as the stranger who just warned me minutes ago. Had they known I was coming all along? Was everything they'd told me a trap? Before I could even process it, a notification ping shattered the silence. At me. My name tagged directly. The hair on my arm stood up as I stared at the little red badge glowing on my screen. Someone, right now, was talking to me from inside the archives. I stared at the glowing green icon like it was a loaded gun. General was silent, truth was frozen, but there it was, pulsing faintly at the bottom of the sidebar. The room 1/99, a voice channel, the kind that shouldn't even exist anymore. Every word the stranger had typed clawed at the back of my mind. Don't click the voice channel, don't listen. But the thing about warnings is they stick. The more you try to resist, the heavier they pull. And the longer I sat there, the more I felt like something on the other side was waiting for me. Against every shred of common sense, I hovered over it, clicked. The screen shifted, a black void, just me connected, 199. At first it was silence, pure, oppressive silence that pressed against my eardrums. I almost laughed at myself, scared of nothing, spooked by an empty room. Then the static started. Not the clean white hiss of bad audio, but something wetter, rougher, like whispers dragging through water. I turned the volume down, but it didn't matter. The sound seemed to swell inside my skull, bypassing my headphones completely. And then I heard it. A voice, thin, crooked, like a bad recording warped through a dozen codecs. Hello. I froze. My username flickered in the corner. For a split second I thought someone had joined, but the counter still read 199. Just me. Can you hear us? Us. My stomach flipped. Another voice bled through. Younger, higher pitched, crying. At first I thought it was a child, but the longer I listened, the more it sounded wrong. The sobs looped in irregular patterns, repeating mid-breath, stuttering, stretching like tape dragged too slow. Then came the third voice. Mine. Not live, not quite. A recording. Words I'd said hours ago when I first joined the server. Hello, anyone here? Except this time the voice didn't stop after the question. It kept talking, rambling things I'd never said, things I never would say. Hello, anyone here? You shouldn't have come back, you should have stayed asleep. You're one of us now, you're one of us now. I ripped off my headphones, but the voices didn't stop. They crawled out of the tinny speakers of my monitor, they leaked from the silence of my room, they filled every crack in the air. And then my mic lit up. I didn't touch it, didn't unmute, but there it was, bright red, broadcasting. The whispers surged louder. Say it. Say it back. Don't make us wait. I slammed my mouse against the disconnect button, but the client wouldn't respond. The cursor glitched, rubber banding back every time I dragged it down. On screen, the channel count flickered. 199 became 299, then 599, then 2399. Names scrolled down the sidebar one after another, all formatted the same. Numbers, dates, too many dates, some from decades ago, some from tomorrow. I recognized one of them. My birthday. I swallowed hard, chest tight, as the voices overlapped into a rising wall of distortion. They weren't just speaking anymore, they were chanting. Low, unified, mechanical. My name over and over, my real name. Not my Discord handle, not my gamertag, my real name. If I had left then, I whispered aloud, though no one could hear me over the roar, maybe I'd still sleep at night, but I didn't. Because instead of leaving, my trembling hand scrolled lower, past the swarm of user icons, down to where a new channel had appeared. One I hadn't seen before. Final door. It pulsed with a faint red glow, like a heartbeat. And without thinking, without giving myself the chance to back out, I clicked. The channel loaded slower than any I'd ever seen. Not the usual Discord lag, not a bad connection. Something deliberate, like the server wanted me to feel the wait, to savor the anticipation before the reveal. When the screen finally resolved, I almost wished it hadn't. Final door wasn't like the other channels. There were no neat chat bubbles, no familiar formatting, just a wall of text cascading downward, glowing faint red against the black. Each line pulsed faintly, as though typed not by fingers but by a heartbeat. And the words. They weren't written to anyone, they were written about. The first line I read made my blood run cold. Entry user, 7/18/15, he came in laughing, joking, talking about League of Legends. He stopped laughing after midnight. Another followed. Entry user, 20217. She thought it was a game, she followed the rules, now she sings in the static. Scrolling further, the entries multiplied. Each one was a case file, a record of someone who had wandered too far into the server. Every detail matched the structure of a ritual, not a conversation. And then my stomach dropped. Entry user, 120523. He thought curiosity would save him. He thought he was different. He is not. That was today, my date, my session. I slammed the scroll wheel back up, desperate for proof that it was a mistake. But the logs were endless. Hundreds of entries, maybe thousands, each one describing someone entering, exploring, failing to resist, and always ending the same way. They stayed. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My room felt too small, my screen too bright, as if I were trapped inside it instead of the other way around. But then the messages shifted. The glow of the text flickered, rearranging. New lines began typing themselves in real time. Entry user, 120523, he is reading this now. I yanked my hands back from the keyboard, but the typing continued. Entry user, 120523, he will look around the room for proof it isn't real. And I did. My eyes darted wildly to the corners of my room, the door, the dark window. Entry user, 120523, he is shaking. I slammed the monitor off. The screen went black. My reflection stared back at me, pale and terrified. But the voices didn't stop. From the headphones lying on my desk, from the faint hum of my PC tower, from the silence of my own walls, whispers pressed in. pleading, begging. Let us out. Trade places. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. The words tangled together, sobbing, chanting, 1,000 desperate throats forced through digital wires. I snapped the monitor back on. The channel had changed again. Now it wasn't just logs, it was chat. Usernames filled the sidebar, hundreds, thousands, each tagged with dates, each marked online. And the chat wasn't static anymore, it was alive. 07-18-15, new one. 02-02-17, he's slow, slower than most. 09-23-20, he'll cave soon, they always cave. I watched in disbelief as the chat typed faster than any human could, lines flying past so quickly I couldn't even read them all. But some stood out, bold, clear, directed at me. At me, say something. At me, prove you're still real. My mic flickered red again. I tried to disconnect, but the button was gone. The whole interface warped, twisting into something that no longer looked like Discord at all, more like a living diagram, channels folding into veins, messages pulsing like arteries. And the chat kept writing. 12-05-23. He doesn't realize he's already inside. 12-05-23. He thinks he can log off. 12-05-23. He's wrong. My hands shook as I hovered over the power button on my tower. I was ready to kill the whole system, but before I could press it, a new sound cut through the whispers. A voice clear, crisp. My own. Don't bother, it said from inside the channel. You're not turning it off. I froze. Because it wasn't just my voice, it was me. Same tone, same pauses, same cynical edge, but saying things I hadn't spoken. And then I saw it. A new entry typing itself, slowly, deliberately, as though savoring every keystroke. Entry user, 12-05-23. He is realizing now. The truth is not that we feed on fear, not that we are trapped. The truth is simpler. This server is a mouth, and he is already inside. I wanted to scream, but the voice in the channel beat me to it. My voice, screaming, begging, crying for help. I unplugged my headphones, but the sound bled from the speakers. I turned off the speakers, but it seeped from the vibrations in the desk. I clapped my hands over my ears, but it echoed inside my skull. And still the chat updated. All users, one of us, one of us, one of us. The scrolling accelerated until the letters blurred, filling the whole screen with red light. My username climbed to the top of the sidebar, no longer white but crimson, permanent. And the final entry appeared. Entry user, 12-05-23, he will never leave. My cursor moved on its own, dragged down the sidebar, back to the top, back to where it all began. And suddenly I was there again, staring at that locked door, that cursed channel I never should have opened. The screen pulsed, the voices surged, and I finally understood. This wasn't a story unfolding. It was a script. And I was being written in. I knew I shouldn't have opened that final channel. The realization hit me too late, sinking in like a knife between my ribs. Everything, the whispers, the locked rooms, the warnings I ignored, led me here. Door wasn't the end of the server. It was the end of me. I stared at my username glowing red in the sidebar. No matter how many times I tried to click away, it stayed fixed, pinned at the top like a trophy. The chat wouldn't stop chanting, 1,000 voices weaving my name into their endless hymn. And then the screen shifted. The logs weren't just recording anymore. They were predicting. Every movement, every thought I had appeared before I did it. Entry user, 12-05-23, he will reach for the power cord. I did, my trembling fingers brushed the cable. He won't pull it. And I didn't. My body froze, as if the act of reading the words had already written them into my nerves. He will understand now. The glow from the screen deepened, filling the room like blood seeping under a door. My reflection warped in the monitor, stretched into something I didn't recognize, something smiling when I was. I realized then that the server wasn't haunted in the way I'd thought. It wasn't a collection of cursed files or deranged users. It was hungry. And every message, every warning, every delay was bait. Not to scare me away, but to keep me scrolling, to keep me reading. Because curiosity isn't harmless. Curiosity is a hook, and I'd swallowed it whole. The last thing I saw before the screen flickered black was a new message typing itself at the bottom of the log. Entry user, who's next? Well, if you ever get an invite link you don't recognize, if it just shows up in your inbox one night without a sender, don't click it. Please, don't make my mistake. I wish I hadn't. Now tell me, what would you have done? Would you have clicked? Would you have stayed? Leave your answer below. Maybe I'll still be here to read it. Maybe. And that's where I'll leave it for now. If you made it all the way through, thank you for sticking with me, and I need to know, what do you think actually happened in that server? Was it haunted code, a cult hiding online, or something older using the internet as its feeding ground? Drop your theories in the comments. I read them all, and some of you pick up on details even I miss. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. Trust me, the next case is even darker. Because here's the thing, this isn't the first time I've stumbled across something like this. Some of you might remember the abandoned forum story from last month or the video about cursed VHS recordings. Different platforms, different disguises, but the patterns, the rituals, they keep showing up. And if you think this is the only server like it, you're wrong. Stay safe online, stay curious but not too curious. Until next time.